Hello, my name is Stacia Alexander. Welcome to August Accountability 31 Days of Action. I appreciate everyone who is joining us again from last year, and a special welcome to all of the new invites who are giving it a try. We were able to accomplish quite a bit last year just from holding each other accountable. I am a licensed professional counselor and I've been in private practice since 1998. I work in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. And what I found over this wealth of experience that I've had is that a lot of times if I get my clients to focus on their level of accountability in any area of their lives that they're dissatisfied with, that they tend to see a lot more growth than if they shift to more of a blame perspective where they're looking at everyone else in terms of who's responsible for what has happened in their lives. So I'm not saying that they're responsible for everything that has happened, but there is some level of accountability that we have to accept in terms of our growth, our healing, our forward movement, and our overall acquisition of those things that we want in our lives. So I hope that you get something out of this as well as the consumers I've had over the years and then our participants that we had last year. Okay, now what we have for this month are 31 days of activities. We're on day 2 right now. The first day you should have identified an accountability partner. So very important for you to maximize your results to choose an accountability partner. And remember, if you think you don't need one, then why not volunteer to be an accountability for someone else? So invite them to participate in this month's activities and you serve as their accountability partner and help someone else achieve their goals. Everything that we do will be virtual. So there's no official meeting places, there's no official date. Everything that you do will be self-modulated. What you may have is a meeting with your accountability partner, and that's something that you will have to work out between the two of you. So what we have for the next 31 days are 4 quadrants that we're going to work on. The first one is family, which is family and relationships. The next one is spiritual. We'll have career education, and we'll also have self-concept. Now these are not in any particular order, saying that something is more important than another area. Those are simply the 4 quadrants that we'll work out of. Last year we did it a little different for those who are joining us again. This year, I am asking everyone, absolutely everyone, to work in all 4 quadrants. So what I've done is broken them down from week to week. Okay, so for week 1, we're going to work on relationships. And there will be 5 sections, one for Monday through Friday to consider in this quadrant. And the first one we'll work on is self. We will look at what you think of yourself and how that contributes to your relationships with everyone else. We'll look at your family relationships, not necessarily or not restricted to your nucleus, but your extended family as well. We'll also look at your work relationships with your work colleagues, your romantic relationships, and then we'll look at your friendships. Now, let me tell you a little bit of why I want to focus on these different areas in terms of relationships. Like I said, when you consider what your relationship is with yourself, it will give you some insight into how you get along with other people. Sometimes we tend to underestimate that what we think of ourselves will relate to how we think of other people, whether you come from a negative perspective or pessimistic, or if you're optimistic and always looking for the good in people. It'll give you a good indicator of what type of relationships you have. And you'll also realize that if you continue to struggle with building relationships with people, that you do need to spend some time working on yourself. The next area that we'll look at are family. I come from a huge family, and one thing that I've learned over the years, not necessarily learned because I knew it pretty early on, but what I've come to accept is that nobody's perfect. That God shows us favor every day, and for us to walk in I guess this negative tone of not accepting other people for their weaknesses or their shortcomings, then we kind of cheat ourselves of what God intended when He created families, when He said we're going to operate within this system. So we're going to spend some time thinking about that, not necessarily from a point the finger kind of perspective, but what can I do to enhance this situation? And if there is nothing to enhance the situation, if there's a, if you're at the point where you have to wipe your hands clean and move forward, then how to deal with that. And these are all things that I'm bringing into this year that I have encountered through my years of practice of working with people. Okay, so when we get to romantic section, we're going to split off. We're going to have people who are married, and then we're going to have people who are single. I know plenty of people who feel great about being single. They are absolutely joyful where they are at this stage in their lives. I know some single people who would prefer to be married. And then I have, unfortunately, some married people who would prefer to be single. And then I have some married people who want to be married, but they're kind of struggling with it. So whatever category you fit in, it'll just be for you to have that self-reflection, because that probably would be a whole workshop in and of itself to identify or really work through all of those areas. But romantic is one of the sections that we'll work on this week. And then work is an area that I want people to consider. That work in the workforce, you don't necessarily work from home, but you have colleagues or supervisors or managers that you interact with every day, or maybe even your staff that you interact with every day, to consider what level of impact that has on your relationships with people, because you don't want to spend 40 hours in a week and it's not very enjoyable or it's not very peaceful. So I'm asking everyone that's participating this month to look at your level of accountability in the type of work environment that you have. What do you bring to the table? And then the last area that we'll look at this week are friendships. I went out a couple of weeks ago with some friends that I've had for over 25 years. These are ladies that I've known since high school, and we get together occasionally. And I just haphazardly tweeted when I laid down that day that a woman who says she has no girlfriends is missing out on a critical area of her life. Well, I did not expect the storm of responses that I received from that simple tweet, but I think it got some people to thinking. Some people were offended. Some people understood exactly what I was talking about, but it was a good exchange. Whether people were offended or receptive, it was a good exchange between us about what an impact friendships have on people. So I do want to include that this week. So get ready. We'll have an assignment or something, a quote to get you to think a little bit every day. And then on Saturdays, basically a rest day. And I'll come back on next Sunday with the next week's videos on what the next week's video on what quadrant we're going to work with. So let's get started.